Apparently a version of light as a feather, stiff as a board that most people don't play, that involves the person who is being the subject, like the board, who is lifted into the air. There's a version of the game where that person recites an incantation that allows a spirit to enter the body while they're in the air. And that spirit is what allows them to levitate. A person named Stacy emailed about this. She said she was at a sleepover growing up. They were playing the game. They wanted to play this game, and one of the girls that's at the sleepover says, have you guys ever played the other version? And Stacy and her friends were like, no, what's that? And so she tells them, and she says, yeah, you have to recite this thing before you go up in the air, and then you allow possession. Stacy said at this point, she was young. She didn't really know what she was doing. She's like, I guess we were trying to summon demons. Like, I don't know why, but we were down for it. And so she decides she's going to be the subject first, and her friends are all around her chanting. She recites the incantation, lift her into the air with their fingers. And she said as she was in the air, she doesn't know if it was the rhythmic chanting, but she did feel like something was trying to enter her. And she firmly said no. As soon as she says no, she drops back down to the ground. And another friend wanted to try it, but she actually said yes. They were holding her in the air with their fingers. They were all chanting. They heard her whisper yes, and then all of a sudden she seemed to be floating on her own. Stacy swears she actually lifted a few more feet into the air. All the girls started freaking out. All of them started screaming, and their friend dropped back down to the ground. She said we all stopped playing after that, but that feeling of something trying to enter my body never really left me. And then years later, she hears about red door, yellow door, and she says, I guess I wasn't done messing with these things. She decides to play with a friend. She entered as the subject. I've gone into details about how red door, yellow door works in another video, but she comes to a red door. She knew you weren't supposed to open the red doors because something evil was behind it. And she said as she stood in front of this door in this trance-like state, she could feel an evil energetic presence behind the door. She said the only way I know how to describe it is it was very similar to that feeling that I had when I was being lifted into the air when I was playing light as a feather, stiff as a board, and I felt that thing try to enter my body. But I have no other way to describe it, but the energy feels thick and gross, and it feels like something is trying to override everything else you're feeling. But I guess I still didn't learn my lesson because I then dabbled in other games like the chocolate goblins and Ouija boards, but said I believe that psychological fear is a factor with how these games work. But I also believe that your faith has to be stronger than your fear because that's what this stuff is made of and that's what it eats. The more fear you give it, the more it'll sit at your table and beg. She said most of all, she just wants people to know that these energies are not something that anyone should just play with, especially if you're trying to communicate with someone that's passed. If you're really interested in that, there's other ways to do it, but the energy that comes through these mediums, especially Ouija boards, is something that you shouldn't play with. She did say she knows a lot about this stuff, but she does have a burner account, so she's not going to be responding to any comments. But if anyone has any pressing questions, she said she's more than happy to reach out privately if something seems important. If you're new here, Spooky Scary Storytime is the series where I share listeners' allegedly true, scariest, creepiest stories that they think nobody else would believe. So if you have a story, I would love to read it.